Oh yeah.
I agree.
All right. Well, that'll about wrap it up for our deep dive this time. We're moving right along in our top Zen. Of course, we've got another intro for you. So, Doodle Dandy, do the dander doodle. I'm trying to make this work, but I don't know.
Really doodled on this one, man.
You doodled all over that one.
Yeah.
You did a huge doodle on that, bro.
Huge doodle. Doodled all over the place there. Really just doodled it up.
Sploosh.
Yeah, just sploosh. All right. So there was our fancy intro. All right. So tonight for our top Zen, we are talking about villains who are right. Relatable villains are all the rage as audiences refuse to settle for bad guys who are told were just bad. They want to understand the twisted motives that turns the villains to evil. And sometimes those motives turn out to be pretty understandable. From avenging personal betrayals to salient social critiques, the bad guys in our favorite movies, comics, and video games are sometimes right. Now that we're saying it was now we're not saying it justifies their actions, right? We're not that they're secretly the good guys. Maybe a couple are, but we're not saying that all of them are. So don't get any notions here. But we can't deny that when all is said and done, maybe they kind of had a point. Before, these characters were black and white in how they were written, but now they were written so complexly that they often outshine the heroes. That said, here are 10 of our favorite villains who made a hell of a whole lot of sense. And I'm kicking us off with number 10, Ra's al Ghul. The main antagonist of Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, and the main antagonist in a lot of Batman series, to be honest, is Liam Neeson's Henry Ducard, or Ra's al Ghul. Was he really that bad? As well as turning young Master Bruce into a crime-fighting vigilante, we've come to know and fear his main goal was to restore order to the world and destroy the corrupt Gotham City. Filled with psychopathic psychiatrists, chaotic clowns, Gotham City is a barnacle on the backside of the world. Poor Ra's only wanted to make things better by wiping Gotham and its crime-ridden streets from existence. Sure, a lot of innocent people would have been caught in the crossfire, but as the Dark Knight Rises shows, Gotham would continue at the cost of the government, continue to cost the government a small fortune. But the thing is, Gotham is a cancer to the on the world. It's run by crime bosses, and even Batman's work to shut down results in worse consequences. While the plan was going to kill a lot of people, Ducard was thinking about the greater picture, about keeping humanity in balance, and sometimes that requires a great sacrifice. And we saw in later movies, Gotham never actually got any better. When the best you could hope for is that you don't get vaporized by a nuke or taken over by a clown-faced maniac, your bar is pretty low. Ra's al Ghul has always been a character that has always kind of had a point. He's not always been one that really wants to do reckless killing. I mean, Ducard in Christopher Nolan's version was a bit more reckless, but beforehand, Ra's was a tactful assassin who simply wanted to maintain power throughout the world. He was immortal, and so that always, any immortal person in DC universe is usually a little fucked in the head. And he was no exception. And he had a, by all cost kind of attitude. But he wasn't wrong a lot. What do you guys think about Ra's al Ghul making number 10 on the countdown?
Yeah, I mean, shit, if he's at 10, this is going to be a packed list because, I mean, like you said, he's just, he's granted his purpose is kind of like just based, I think, a lot of hubris where he's the one who's going to sort of rectify humanity, but he's not wrong in the fact that it needs to be rectified, right? Like he's not just, for like a better, I mean, he is killing in a sense, but it's more so like his, as with
a lot of times he's trying to eliminate crime bosses or slums or things like that.
Right. The means justify the ends, right? Like that's his whole thing.
Yeah, that's his general idea. But obviously his means are pretty fucking crazy, and that's why he's a villain. And honestly, that's why he's number 10, because everyone else on the list seems a bit more justified in their previous positions. And including a number 9 on the list. Kev, who's number 9 on the list?
Number 9, Dad, we've got Syndrome from The Incredibles. Brad Bird often gets accused of being a Rand-style objectivist, which is absurd. After all, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged is about how all the world's geniuses abandon our world to build a futuristic utopia, whereas Brad's Tomorrowland is about all the world's geniuses. Never mind. In The Incredibles, there's more than a few shades of Bird's potential objectivism. Like Rand's the Fountainhead, the villain of The Incredibles, is frustrated that he's not allowed to be special like Mr. Incredible, who rejects him for not having powers, despite young Buddy, later Syndrome, displaying an incredible skill at inventing. Ultimately, though, Syndrome is right to allow such unchecked power to be wielded by only those genetically gifted with it is a quick path to chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, Syndrome definitely had the whole, we got to check them before they wreck us kind of a check themselves before they wreck themselves kind of mentality about superheroes. I mean, kind of the whole Civil War.
Himself, but
Yeah. Like, I mean, he did, but like the whole thing was
they checked him and he wrecked him.
The whole thing was that superheroes without some sort of oversight can lead to more dangerous things than even he was plotting. You kind of a thing, right?
The Soviet Accords.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Very Cold War-ish. But I mean, that's kind of a
yeah. That's kind of what he was saying, right? Like his whole thing was he was giving like weapons and these great inventions to people. So it's like, well, if everyone's special, then no one's special, you know?
Yeah.
Like that famous line.
Yeah, no, that is the famous line, and it's very much along the same lines of the nuclear deterrent. You know, like, well, if we've all got nukes, then none of us are going to nuke each other. It's like, oh man, is that really how you fix things?
Yeah,
right.
That's what makes him a villain.
But it's the what makes him kind of right is definitely the fact that like unchecked power is a very scary thing.
Absolutely. Right. No, I think he's right to question that there. And in the world of superheroes, I think that's an incredibly apt argument.
Yeah.
Number 8 on the countdown, though, is one that a lot of people constantly say deserves some kind of redemption and has a little bit of a point. What's number 8 on the countdown, Jake?
Yeah, number 8 on this week's countdown is Tyler Durden from Fight Club. The folk hero of many millennial and whatever generation came before us boys during their years of college. Tyler was, spoiler ahead, really the villainous half of Jack's broken psyche. Taking over whenever Jack would fall asleep, or at least when he thought he was going to sleep. The result was bare-knuckled fighting ring turning into a global revolution. While some hate him as the character has become a hero to incels and red pill losers alike. He was a lot of fun. And when you take the form of Brad Pitt, you're very easy on the eyes as well. But ultimately, he was torturing Jack and giving him the worst impulses, destroying property, beating up people in authority, vandalizing signs, putting up magnets to videotapes, and being an all-around jerk to the average person who was just trying to go home and open a bottle of Merlot without harassing anybody. It was funny, though, because the movie made it funny. But the truth is, any of us would be outright furious if we had to deal with a Tyler Durden in real life, and the damage he caused was overall catastrophic. But why he was probably right is that Tyler was trying to destroy the rat race that we've all kind of grown accustomed to. Of course, his plan could not possibly work with computers and everything, but blowing up these buildings wouldn't erase any records, but it would just cause a lot of property damage, you know? But at least the thought was there. He thought that if he destroyed those buildings, he could topple society because then there would be no credit, and without all the debt and all that other stuff, that we would all be free, right? And so that was the end of the biggest thing for Tyler. He just really wanted to set people free and believe the greed of corporations are keeping us working folk down. And I think that's something we can all kind of agree with.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Savage in here. People empathizing with evil Tyler is one of the biggest red flags out there. But if you're going to look at the point as the objective point in the movie, it absolutely does have a point, right? I think that, like, you know, it's like Rick from Rick and Morty. Anyone that overly empathizes with Rick, you should probably stay away from. That doesn't mean I'm not going to watch Rick and Morty, or that I don't think Rick always has a point. It's just people that
it's the same with American Psycho. It's the same with American Psycho. People look at, you know, Bateman and they're just like, oh, like it's because it's people ruin things for everybody else, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like Tyler Durden, the actual character, like like you shouldn't find him relatable at all, like obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the story, is that the
Right.
dude's an asshole. But you're supposed to like at least take out of it that like, oh yeah, well corporate greed's worse than Tyler Durden,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Like at the end of the day, like and so like that's kind of where like that's why he ends up on the list in my opinion. Like and I think it very much falls into the same kind of vein of wait, what was the first one I mentioned? Fuck. Anyway, drew a blank.
Anyways, moving right along to one that's also frequently talked about as one that was misunderstood. Actually, there's a whole fucking play about how misunderstood this character was. The Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard Oz. That's right. We're bringing in Wizard of Oz references up in here, right? You didn't think Geek Life was a place where we talk about Wizard of Oz. We're talking about Wizard of Oz. Let's talk about it right now. You like that energy?
Her sister was a witch, bro. like,
Losing a family member is never easy and can cause some people to lash out, okay? Enter the Wicked Witch of the West from 1939's The Wizard of Oz. In a drop kick, drops in a red-headed invader who not only lands a house on your sister, but then steals a priceless family heirloom. Anyone would want their ruby red slippers back to mourn in peace, but instead, Dorothy Gale gathered her own team of skilled companions to mercilessly hunt down the Wicked Witch of the West. Heading back to the Wizard of Oz, what does the Wicked Witch of the West get for her troubles? A bucket of water thrown on her and a grisly demise. You probably don't need us to tell you why the witch was justified. An entire industry of prequels, ranging from the hit Broadway musical Wicked to a forgotten Sammy Raimi movies, Oz, the Great and Powerful, have tried to give a sympathetic backstory to the green-skinned witch who has scared our pants off as a kid. But aside from all the extraneous info, let's focus on a key fact. Dorothy whacked her sister, okay? She was just getting revenge, all right? What is with this, all right? Just
then robbed her grave.
Yeah, just
you murdered her and then robbed her.
Pulled her sparkly footwear off her body before she could even get cold. And you don't even need love affairs with scarecrows or evil curses to justify the witch's actions. Grave robbing alone justifies a vendetta against Dorothy. Send the fucking flying monkeys. Justice for the Witch of the West, guys.
I don't get it. And just because I think they make a person green and we're all like, fuck that person, they make them like, they made her very witchy, and then they had Glinda coming in looking like a bad bitch with her little bubble and everything, and you're just like, oh, she's the good one, this is the bad one, and they made that you were all suckers. Everyone fell for it. They made one look good and one
social construct.
Yeah, exactly. They made one look good and one look bad physically, and she even had a bad laugh, and so you're like, oh, well, she's obviously a villain. I mean, they just got murdered and a family heirloom stolen, like you said. It's I get it. I get why the Wicked Witch, she deserves a little bit more. Dorothy is the bad guy.
For real.
Behind that.
100%. Also, though, in villains that need to be redeemed, and also coming from the movie sphere as well, because we like that. We're trying to stay away from just comic book villains here, right? Number 6 on the countdown. Kev, who we got?
Yeah, number 6, Roy Batty from Blade Runner. The Oscar-winning sequel Blade Runner 2049 had many suggesting it equaled or even surpassed the original, but one element fell flat. Jared Leto's mustache-twirling Neander Wallace couldn't hold a candle to the original film's antagonist, Roy Batty. Damn, Jared. Batty is arguably the most relatable villain of contemporary science fiction. His plight is an analog to man's own struggle with mortality. He struck the path to confront his creator and demand more time equal to humanity's own struggle against the finality of death. His goals were completely understandable. He just wanted to live longer, and he was forced into 4 years life by design. A blink of an eye, even by human standards. Heck, dogs live way longer. Humanity on Earth wanted his immediate destruction. There was no indication that Batty was planning on any kind of damage to us. Everything he did was directed at people who were directly involved in replicants or engaging in self-defense against Deckard. In the end, Deckard can't see Batty as an enemy, but a sympathetic and creature in pain, desperate to find some meaning in his unnecessarily brief existence.
Yeah, no, he made a really great.
Yeah.
Made a really.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, he was really. No, I was just gonna say he was really good. The actor that portrayed him was, fucking awesome. And no, I mean, Roy just wanted to live forever.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's
As
sometimes something wrong with that.
Yeah, it's
sometimes. Typically, the people that get immortality are typically bad people.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess, the media and art's way of saying like we all got to accept death, which is a nice comment. But like, if the technology is there, right? Like,
well, I think like just knowing that you were born to live 4 years and that was it, when you could live way longer, it just kind of like, it kind of like hits you as like, hey, I should, we should fix that.
Right. We all do things to make sure we live longer than 4 years.
You know, a hero,
we do
or
things
you
on a regular
live
basis
long
to
enough
ensure
see
that
yourself become the villain.
Yep, exactly.
That's what kind of happened with Roy Batty.
That did kind of happen with Roy Batty. But Roy Batty doesn't have anything on number 5, because number 5 was literally Reddit's favorite in as far as discussing why this character wasn't really a villain and why he was right. Who's number 5 on the countdown, Jake?
Yeah, I would say this one is really on up there with the Empire when it comes to Reddit's backing. Number 5 on this week's countdown is Thanos, the Mad Titan himself. Josh Brolin plays the Mad Titan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In Avengers Infinity War, the Eternal makes his mission to collect the Infinity Stones in order to wipe out half of the population. Most people hate him because the idea of someone randomly snuffing out 50% of the Earth's inhabitants is nothing short of horrifying. Thanos snaps his Infinity Stone-laden hand, and some of Earth's mightiest heroes, along with roughly 3.2 billion other people, disintegrate into dust, leaving those left behind completely devastated. But why he was probably right is because Thanos cites overpopulation, famine, disease as many of the reasons why he's annihilating half of the population of various worlds. Thanos is not a villain who destroys for fun. He genuinely believes his actions can lead to a universe free of suffering. He treats overpopulation as a doctor would treat any illness. He wants to eliminate the virus, or in this case, a lot of humans. Fellow R Thanos did nothing wrong members stand up. Like, we should all be here. We got to support each other. My boy Thanos did nothing wrong. I mean, he could have definitely snapped away things like overpopulation or disease, but he didn't do that. So yeah, the ends were heavy, and I don't know if they justify the means with half of the world.
Yeah,
but it's definitely one that I get.
And there's the resource argument is out there. There's some people that say that that's like not possible. Like because Thanos does mention in Infinity War the resources of this world are finite. Which him saying that with the Infinity Gauntlet in his hand says something, right? Like if they're saying if he's saying it's finite when he has literally all the abilities of the world in his hand, then they're finite. I will say, as Little as Nelly is pointing out in chat here, this is movie Thanos that was justified, right? Comic book Thanos is not justified. Comic book Thanos just wanted, as Little as Nelly put, go down to Bone Town with the Bone Crown, which is, I mean, he literally wanted to fuck the Grim Reaper. He was doing this all to appease death. And I did like the cosmic frat boy simp Thanos, because he was literally like, look at this, I can turn Drax into Silly String because I can. Don't you think that's cool, Death? So
I mean, and a lot of people, their motivation is getting laid. So I mean, you gotta that's also kind of relatable.
That is kind of relatable. That is kind of relatable.
I think you know what it is though. You know what would have been great. I think would have justified him anymore if he snapped himself away too. Like, could you imagine if he snapped everybody else?
That is why a lot of people did also have Thanos's back. They were like, he made the ultimate. He was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice as well. Like there's
theories that when he snapped, he looked around to see if he still survived.
Yeah, because he didn't know technically, if he would survive the snapping. He just knew that the world and the universe and everything needed the snap to survive, and so that's what makes him a polarizing villain.
Yeah. No, I mean, he just sparked a debate that was a year-long debate that kept people in the
Snappy.
movie. I mean, it was probably one of the greatest movie marketing techniques of all time, was just making him so. I mean, they did a really great job with the character, hands down.
Yeah.
But one character that really, really grew on me in my old age, and at this point, like, and not old age, I'm not really that old. But like at this point, like, I hands down side with this villain, right? We're getting stronger here on the countdown, which is number 4.
Yeah.
Look,
God,
Poison
man.
Ivy, they call her an eco-terrorist, but all she's trying to do is kill billionaires who are polluting the planet. And like, what the fuck is wrong with that? AOC, I see you. You know, like, I'm all about it. Uma Thurman rocked the film version of this planet-wielding villain in Batman and Robin, but my current favorite has to be the one from the Harley Quinn show. Why she was probably right. Basically, we're destroying the planet. Like, we know this, right? We've got like category 5 tornadoes. I've never heard that before. Every fucking year. You know, she used venom to get plants to protect themselves. Others used it to create Bane, but you know, she used them to turn into like big plant, you know, soldiers for her. She can, you know, control men with her spores and pheromones and poisons in her lips. But the character has completely transformed over the years and now is referred to as mostly an eco-terrorist, only dishing out damage to those who are destroying the planet. And like, she's doing nothing wrong. I mean, I think that's at some point we've got to get some of these corporations to start listening to us, and maybe they'll only listen to us when, you know, a magical plant wielding eco-terrorist is at their door with a, you know, building sized Venus flytrap eating them up.
Look,
You know?
she's just doing what the consequences of, you know, our actions would be with, you know, against nature, right? Like, she's just like, ultimately she sees the cons, like what she's doing is what would happen to us anyway, right? With all the polluting and you know, us affecting the climate and whatnot. So I don't, you know,
To say poison ivy isn't nature's answer. You know what I
you're
mean?
right.
Like, she
You're
may
right.
already
That's true.
she may already be. Like, poison
Yeah,
ivy
that's true.
could be what the earth decided was time to give us, and Batman's just trying to hold it back because he's a capitalist billionaire.
Yeah, that's true. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean,
it's
Poison Ivy's
weird.
right.
Like if you try explaining Poison Ivy's sort of background and her motivation as a villain to someone today, like just today, who's never heard of
A Gen
Batman or
Zer.
anything, like, yeah, they're like, yeah, why is Poison Ivy a villain? Well, you know, she uses plants to fight pollution. Wait, what?
Yeah, I've seen it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, she's literally Captain Planet, just
Yeah.
In a
with
way.
violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that the Harley Quinn show does a good job of, though, and I think it's something that, like, and you know, it kind of goes into this whole episode's overarching thing in a way too, is like, you know, at one point Harley shoots one like a henchman with a gun, and it's like a cancer ray, and they're like, Harley Quinn gave me cancer, and he's like, oh my god, I've got to go home to my family, and like, you know, runs off and everything, and like,
Yeah.
it tries to drive home that the people who work at these, like, you know, yeah, they work for some terrible multi-billion-dollar corporation that's like tossing, you know, God knows what into the ocean or whatever. But it's like, that dude's just doing his job. Like, does he work for a shit place? Yeah, it's awful. He shouldn't work there, but you don't know everybody's circumstances. So, you know, he may be a felon, you know, like maybe they gave him a second chance, you know, kind of a thing, you know, like, and so it's like, you know, maybe he's just doing his
henchman.
Maybe he's just doing his job, you know, like it's especially at the corporations and stuff that, like, you know, Poison Ivy
trying to survive capitalism, little as Nelly says.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, and then Poison Ivy walks in there and eats him with a Venus flytrap, and he's just like, oh no, I'm not gonna get to see my daughter's recital this Friday, you know, like. So like, go straight for the billionaires is what I'm saying. Henchmen,
that's true.
Henchmen are just doing jobs.
Yeah, they're still pissing in bottles of the rest of us.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyways, morbid Amazon joke. Moving right along, number 3, another villain that a lot of people said this guy was right the whole time. Like, what I see no error. Tell us who number 3 on the countdown is, Kev.
Yeah, guys, number 3 on the countdown, we have Killmonger from Black Panther, Marvels. Part of what made Black Panther such a huge hit and an absolute shoe-in for that popular film Oscar was the absolutely riveting performance from Michael B. Jordan as the film's antagonist Killmonger.
Amen.
Denied his birthright and rejected by his isolated kingdom, Killmonger felt it was wrong that such an advanced civilization hid away while inhuman acts of cruelty existed in the world, and promoted an idea of an armed Pan-African uprising. Those methods were excessive, taking innocent lives and guided more by fury than compassion. His announced motives not only resonated with the audience, but ultimately T'Challa himself. In the end, T'Challa recognized the importance of reaching out to the world and African diaspora, sorry, diaspora, though through diplomatic rather than militaristic means. But as many online commentators point out, Killmonger did not simply want to murder thousands without cause. Having grown up witnessing the systemic oppression of racism firsthand, Killmonger felt revolution was necessary. At times, it may be. Had Killmonger gotten his way, would it have been a bloodbath? Sure. But as Victor Hugo once wrote, we call the brutalities of progress revolution. Mankind has been treated harshly, but it moves forward.
Here, here, comrade.
Here. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Killmonger, I mean, with everything on the table there, I can't see how someone wouldn't come to that same kind of conclusion. And honestly, when I was in the movie theater looking at it, I was kind of been like, come on, T'Challa, like, let's do the thing, right? Do the thing that's gonna actually make an impact in the world.
Yeah. The isolationism of Wakanda has always been Wakanda's biggest kind of like I would say it's bad mark, right? Like it's just kind of like a blemish. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. The isolationist of it has been its only real blemish, and so like it was nice that in the end Killmonger was able to open it up a bit, like because sharing that technology with not just the rest of the world, but specifically in Africa, like could be game changing. And so,
Littlest Nelly put in chat here. His character exists as a villain for the same reason white people think Malcolm X was a villain. I think that is T.
Yeah.
That is T right there.
Yeah.
But not as much T as probably drinking by number 2 in the countdown, who is a villain that we really, really hate to admit was right. But honestly, of the villains in The Watchmen, to pick Ozymandias is not a bad one to agree with. People that agree with Rorschach, there's much more problematic stuff with that. But anyways, Ozymandias coming in at number 2. Jake, tell us about Ozymandias.
Number 2 this week, Ozymandias from The Watchmen. Fans will often invoke Ozymandias. I did it 35 minutes ago, and any conversation about the ultimate villainous mic drops, and rightfully so. For all Ozymandias' grandstanding and monologuing about uniting the world, he not only does it, but it works.
Right.
His plan involves faking an extraterrestrial attack on New York in order to unite the world against a perceived outside threat, unless you count the movie changing it to Dr. Manhattan, but we'll talk about that. We can move that over. And judging from the epilogue, he actually succeeds. And we're not just saying that Ozymandias was justified in his act of deception, but you can't deny that his thesis proved to be true.
Right.
The whole point was to create an enemy that the United States and the Soviet Union could band together over, and he did just that in Dr. Manhattan and in the giant squid from the actual comics. His goal was from world peace, and judging by news reports, his goal was world peace, and judging by news reports and stuff that happened afterwards, he accomplished just that. Few cities leveled to forever prevent all-out nuclear holocaust. In that lens, it's almost a fair trade, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that it is like for world peace. There's a lot that people would sacrifice, and that's the whole point of at the end where Rorschach is going to dismantle it all, and Dr. Manhattan, again, the movie really, really heroicized Rorschach, but let's not forget that Rorschach was a homophobic misogynist, and like there's a reason why the TV series that white supremacist adopted his ideals 100%.
No, that was a big part. I mean, Rorschach, while a cool character,
Right.
is definitely not like one that I think you're supposed to relate to as much as like Ozzy Mendez in a way, because like Ozzy, like at least at the end of the day, like you can kind of be like, oh fuck, this guy's a genius. He's and he's trying to kind of like save the whole, not just like he's not trying to save New York, right? He's trying to save the entire world, because if you Doomsday Clock and just that whole comic book as well really drives home the fact, and if you know anything about U.S. history too, not to wax poetic or anything, we got really close to nuking each other at one point. And once America nuked Russia and Russia nuked America, other places would probably start popping off too. And before we know, we're all living in a giant cloud of, fallout. And so, like, I think in the comic, what he does is actually even more kind of like understandable, because he literally just destroys Manhattan. It's not even all of New York. It's literally just wipes out Manhattan. And so, like, in the comic book, you're like, okay, would you sacrifice one, Manhattan, well, and Moscow? I think he makes them like, do some other stuff or whatever. But like, it's like, would you sacrifice two major cities for the globe to have world peace? And it's like, that's a trolley question if I've ever seen one.
Right.
Yeah, for real. Okay. It's come down to this. Number one on the countdown, the villain who was right. We already talked about him earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Magneto was right. Number one on our countdown is Magneto. Magneto might as well be Marvel's finest villain, and no small because of his evil agenda, but it's really only a matter of perspective. Having been a young boy who witnessed the horrors of the Holocaust, Magneto is aware of humanity's tendency to expel and exterminate the other out of fear. It wants to ensure that his people are capable of fighting back. We won't defend any of Magneto's actions, but ideologically, he's opposed to Xavier rather than on the other side of the same coin. But ideologically, he's less opposed to Xavier and rather the other side of the same coin. Though Xavier favors diplomatic while Magneto to the militaristic, time and time again, humanity has proven Magneto's suspicions right. And while striving for a peaceful resolution to the conflict, it should be the ultimate goal. It keeps humanity's worst instincts at bay, knowing the mutants have a more violent means if pushed. Magneto, especially with everything that happens in the Marvel Universe, and Magneto being a really big kind of mutants in the Marvel society, being someone who's basically a placeholder for minorities and any kind of others out there. The way that they approach this is just, Magneto's approach is simply that they need to fight back with the same methods that they're being used to oppress. And honestly, that's something I can relate to more than anything else. I mean, not to get too political here, but this last week you saw Governor Cuomo step down and resign because of sexual harassment lawsuits, and that we all, I think, here would agree that he should, right? But goddamn well, if he was a Republican, he wouldn't have. He would have ran on it. He would have been like, "Oh, the liberals are trying to take me out with this weird campaign." I mean, fucking the right complained about pedophiles in government, but still are turning their back to Matt Gaetz, right?
Yeah. Well,
Gaetz,
right?
Gaetz is kind of like just straight up the biggest example of that, where like somebody can do something irrehensible and then they still just be like, this is just a fucking, they're trying to take my free speech. I guess to him, free speech is like fucking 16-year-olds. I don't.
Yeah.
So I get frustrated at times because I feel like a lot of times the quote unquote good guys don't they don't take the same means to they're not like at the end of the day, as in the example we're getting through here, Gates' message gets through, right? Gates gets his platform still, right? He's not dethroned by any of that because they don't give a shit about the bottom of the barrel moral integrity. And in a way that gives them the advantage. And I think that there's a lot of times that Magneto is simply on the side of, we need to approach them with the same kind of level of tenacity that they're approaching us in order to get our methods due, because we're outnumbered and they only want to other us, and they're going to continue to do so. And I mean, there's been more than one time.
And there's been numerous times where Charles Xavier is like, oh damn, Magneto's right? Like,
Yep.
and I think that's like the brilliance in his character, where it's like he is literally a product of his own environment, where he basically escaped Nazi Germany at a young age, witnessed some horrendous actions, and then come over, and then is again in that same situation, right? But except this time he has the power to fight back, and like you said, he's not so much seeking like world domination as much as he is not even retribution, just like essentially safety and like equality, really, ironically enough.
Yeah.
And like you said, on the other side of the coin, there you have Charles Xavier, who grew up for lack of for majority of his life, well, all of his life, really, pretty privileged, right?
Yeah.
Like he's in the position of, oh yeah, well, we can do this peacefully, and
Mhm.
channel, and everyone will respect us and get along, and Max is
Right.
a realist. He's like, no, these people, as long as they fear us, we're always going to be a threat to them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a great like I mean he was already, and as Nelly pointed out, he was already kind of it was a metaphor for Malcolm X, because
Right.
the whole Civil War, or Civil War, jeez. The civil rights movement, and like Xavier was obviously supposed to be more of a Martin Luther King, peace and unity, together we can make it through this, whereas Magneto was supposed to be more of a like, get your arms, like we need to strap up, like just like they are. And kind of a thing. And so like, he's always had a point though, like with the fact that like, if we don't resort to some of the same tactics as the other side, at least, then we're just going to get ran over. Right. And so like, I think that's why you can kind of agree with him on some things. And like you said, and that's a great point, Kev, about like Xavier has many a times throughout the comics, the shows, and everything's went, fuck. Yeah, I was wrong. Like I thought we could, get this done peacefully, but yeah, no, Magneto, you were right on that one. Humans are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And so like, he's been proven right multiple times. And so
Yep.
I get why he's number one on the countdown.
He's a good number one. He's a good number one for the countdown. That'll wrap it up for our top 10 villains who are right. We have some honorable mentions here, like Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, L from Death Note. Catwoman just stealing from capitalists. Like man,
she's just a cat burglar.
She's a cat burglar, right? And some lines she's like stealing to like help the poor and all that kind of shit. So like there's a lot of stuff. L from Death Note is literally solving a crime, right? He's literally doing his job, right? But it's still the villain there. Starro, Starro's just trying to survive. That's how Starro reproduces, right? That's how that life organism lives, is by doing that. It's not meaning anything malicious. It just trying.
No, I love, and I don't like. Just one more thing on fucking Suicide Squad. I love how they were able to have one line from him that made us all go, "Oh, well, that's not," and it was the whole like, I was happy in space, like he was like, I was by myself in space, just minding my own fucking business.
I was
Y'all
happy watching the stars, floating in space.
Watching the stars. That's the only line Starro has in that entire film, and it was enough to make you go, "Are we the baddies?"
Yeah,
for real. Some other ones on here. Zemo. I mean, Zemo is just literally someone who's trying to fight supremacy, right?
Yeah.
Captain Hook is another one. Kev, you put the Reapers on here. What's up with that?
Yeah. So the Reapers are just basically sentient machines that reset the galaxy, if you will, every 50,000 years. They have no moral or moral code or anything. They're just literally
no goal,
no goal,
other than
civilizations
reset.
rise up. Right. It's kind of like the Thanos effect, or advanced intelligent life rises up. There's a finite amount of resources. They use too many resources. The Reapers comes in, kills everything except for, not all intelligent life. Like you basically have to be able to fly spaceships. They leave like other species alone until they eventually reach that point. Then they'll be back for them later. But and then they go back and sleep for another 50,000 years. It's just this. It's a cycle. So yeah.
Unless you get one of the most metal endings of which is when you just take over the Reapers as Captain as Captain Shepard.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Anyways, that will wrap it up for this episode of Geek Life. We hope you guys have enjoyed everything today. Remember, if you want more Geek Life, you can always follow any of us on Twitter, Twitch. You can find me at Roos Bane, WRUSC. Oh, we forgot to mention it because we got cut off last time because of the technical issues. This stream is sponsored, guys.
Yeah.
We have a sponsor, Swift Lifestyles. Go check them out. It's swiftlifestyles.com. Use code GetGeeked there on there for 15% off your purchase on all kinds of energy drinks, vitamins, swag, shakers, all kinds of fun stuff. So definitely go check it out. Have you guys gotten a chance to check out any of the Swift Lifestyle stuff yet?
Of course, yeah.
Wait till the next show. Like this whole backdrop is just going to be all Swift lifestyle. Like
there you go. Yeah, I haven't got a chance to try any of the flavors yet, but I am super excited. They got a blue raspberry and a cotton candy and a bubblegum, which all three of those flavors sound really fucking good.
Yeah,
and they have gummy vitamins. So
that's
nice.
Nice.
Flintstones. I can quit taking my Flintstones.
You can quit taking your Flintstones. Yeah. You can also check out even more Geek Life content on our YouTube, Instagram, links to which can be found in the link tree below. And as I said before, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Roos Bane. Jake, where can they find you?
I'm at Gonzo Gone Live on the Twitch and the Twitters.
And Kev, what about you?
Totally awesome. It's right there. Or there.
Somewhere. Yeah, they're in this area.
Somewhere over there.
Yeah.
All right. Again, shout out to Swift Lifestyles for our sponsors and Anchor for the podcast. If you listen to us on podcast, we'll be back here same time, same place, about 2 weeks from now. But we got more shows coming on the way, so stick around. Check out the channel. We got new shows coming out with even more of our Nerd Herd, so there should be a lot of fun stuff. That'll be it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Y'all come back now. You hear?